What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of The Bullpen. Today, I have a really special guest for you guys. This guy right here, well, I should say that guy, my father, as a matter of fact.
The specialist guest.
The specialist one is, so just kind of give you guys a little background. This is my dad right here, Joe Evans, former quarterback for BYU, has been a financial advisor for over 30 years. Is that right?
Yes.
That's a long time.
I'm 35 years old, so.
Right. And he has helped, he has done millions of dollars of sales in his business, owned an Allstate agency, and actually bought into a couple Allstate agencies and put them together and had a successful business there. And currently is the regional vice president for a Fortune 700 company, Ohio National.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So Joe Evans here, obviously. I don't even want to call you Joe Evans. Jose.
Getting ready for the takeover.
There you go. Right, yeah.
Hey, you asked me to come on. There's no political correctness coming. So
yeah, everyone just be prepared. There's no political correctness coming from this guy. Well, Dad, first and foremost, thanks for coming on. But right from the get-go, everyone actually knows you by the story that I tell about where you made me get out of the house and go beat up a guy and I wasn't allowed to come home. And people say that's child abuse. No, I'm just kidding.
Wouldn't be the first time.
That's true. But before I talk about anything, I don't think a whole lot of people know a whole lot about your story and where you come from, where you are, because to me, like, it's one of the most incredible stories I've heard, what you've had to go through, just to become who you are, where you're at, So tell us, what's your story?
Well, I was born in California, Newport Beach, matter of fact. And, my parents divorced when I was 12, and it was kind of a bitter divorce. My dad didn't really want much to do with me after that. I went with my mom to Utah. And so coming from California to Utah was a bit of a change. It was a little bit leave it to beaver, and and I wasn't used to that, and so I didn't fit in. I was kind of this California kid who swore all the time, and
we don't fucking swear around here.
No, I don't swear anymore, unless I'm playing golf or driving. Get your ass.
Yeah. Or a lot of things, actually, unless you hit your head on something. No, I'm just kidding.
I've got about 15 disclaimers where I go through and say in these cases.
Yeah.
But when we moved to Utah, it was very difficult because I didn't fit in. I mean, I didn't fit the mold. So we did join the LDS Church when I was here. Didn't really participate much because I joined because my mom did. When I hit high school, played high school football, was recruited to play at Snow College, went and walked on. All my friends went on a mission, and I didn't have the goal or desire or the upbringing to go on a mission, so I didn't go. I got to where I was starting at Snow College, played well, was All-American, and got a scholarship to play at Idaho State. During this transition, you start to look at yourself and say, where am I going with my life? What am I becoming? Well, I didn't know that I liked the direction. I didn't know that I was capable of being a father. I hadn't been raised to do that. I hadn't been raised with the idea of how to raise kids or how to be a good husband. I had no idea. My mom worked 2 jobs and I was on my own. I'm a latchkey kid. And so I started searching and thinking how I can do it. I picked up the Book of Mormon, read the Book of Mormon, and I knew it was true. 2nd Nephi hit it, and I'm giving up football. I'm going on a mission. So I told my coach. He said, well, there's not going to be a scholarship for you when you get home, and I need you to play now. I was named the starting quarterback. And I said, it's fine. I'm going a different direction. And I didn't expect to play football again. It was kind of a big deal financially because my mom worked 2 jobs. She worked for the Scout office and made $19,000, and then she worked for
$19,000 a year.
A year,
and she had to support 2 kids, a single mom.
Yeah, single mom, 2 kids, very tough. Then she worked at night. She'd go over to a old folks home. And work there a few nights a week, but didn't make a lot of money. So paying for school was a big deal for me. So losing the scholarship was a big deal. Went on my mission to Los Angeles. Figured I was done playing football. Was serving my mission. I got a call from letters and call from my mom that a couple schools wanted me to come home early for my mission and catch spring ball, and they would give me a scholarship. I told them I wasn't going to come because I wanted to stay on my mission, and I loved my mission. And I got a call the next night from Norm Chow, coach at BYU. he offered me a scholarship to come home and play. I says, Coach, that's awesome. I'd love to play for you, but I'm not back till June. I'm not going to come home till June. He says, you don't understand. We've already finished spring ball. You finish your mission. You come home in June, and there'll be a scholarship waiting for you. So it was quite a blessing, a different turn of events that took me to BYU. I backed up Ty Detmer at BYU. I met my wife there, got my finance degree at BYU, and really kind of took off from there in my business and my family. I've raised 5 kids. They're still being raised, or maybe they're raising me. I'm not sure which is which, but we've done a number of different things. I've written a book. I hosted a conservative talk show, coached a number of teams, general contracted a couple homes. So we've had our hands in a lot of different things. I'm a big believer in taking it upon yourself to be anxiously engaged in your own life, to not leave it to others, to do things for yourself. That's kind of how I had to do it in my life, and I've learned a lot from that. I've learned more from doing things myself and failing than I have from hiring other people to do it. And I think that's something that I've tried to teach you guys is in life. And like, remember our house right now, there's some of those areas where you actually laid the tile. You did the tile work in my home right now. And it's a nice home. But instead of hiring somebody to do that, I had you do that.
Free labor.
Free labor, exactly. It saved me money, and now I've got more equity in my house, except the crappy job he did. But
He's just a nice house.
Nice house, other than
all the electrical.
Yeah. So I'm a big believer that one of my favorite quotes is that it's better for the character and contentment of man to do things poorly for himself than to have them done well for him by somebody else. And that kind of goes against the grain with what's going on in America and the philosophy of socialism, communism, government can do better. We're going to do everything for you. We're going to make sure that this is done so that society's ran properly. Well, that kind of philosophy sounds really neat, but in the end, it creates a populace that are weak. In fact, I was reading an article. This really struck me because I talked to people who've gone on their missions to Russia, and they, just after Russia got out of communism, they talked about how the people were there, that they were very cold, unfeeling. They didn't look at you in the eye. It's kind of zombie-ish, really. And I read an article just the other day. A 12-year-old kid in my mission in Long Beach got on a bus. This is a 12-year-old kid. The story is being told by his dad, so he came from a good family. Kid gets on a bus, a full bus. Another man gets on just after him, sits next to him, and then just begins for no reason punching this kid in his face.
12-year-old kid?
12-year-old kid. Punched him in the face, dragged him on the bus to the back, punched him more in his face, then got off at the next exit. Nobody did anything. Not the bus driver, not the people on the bus. Nobody did anything. You like to think if you were there, you'd have done something. However, it's just kind of telling to me where we're going as a society, that what we're becoming, right? Because of, one, what we've allowed to encroach in our lives, and two, the weakness it's caused within our character.
Well, okay, so I mean, everything you're like, there's so much to dissect with what you've talked about, but number one, what you just said right there about that's probably, if I were to, it's hard to like narrow down all the lessons you've taught me, but if there's one that's changed my life more than anything, it was the fact that if you don't do something for yourself, no one else will do it for you. The story I tell everybody is literally, that's the reason why this business was built, why I do Alpha Influence, is literally because of that, of what happened, is that I kept, just kept having all this shit happen, right? And the biggest question I always asked, and I asked you, but you didn't have an answer, was why won't anyone help me?
Yeah.
You think about this 12-year-old kid, but you think about just in general, what's the quote where there's actually a few, like Albert Einstein said it. It's one of my favorite quotes where it's basically the only thing necessary for evil to triumph in this world is for good men to do nothing. Right? You're talking about this little kid, 12-year-old kid, and all these people who don't do anything, right? That is literally the biggest reason why we are in the position we're in as a country. Like, that's the biggest reason we find the problems we find is because we don't take the responsibility on ourselves to take control of the situation and do something about it.
Yeah.
It's just to do it.
The founding of our government, this experiment in America, in the Constitution, and in a free society, is based upon the fact that people can govern themselves, that they can take responsibility, that if allowed to, that people can make their own choices, choose better things to do than choose bad things to do, and become a better people than a society that's governed and forced by people who think they know more. Mm-hmm. And that's how you try to raise your kids. That's how you run your business. All those principles are self-evident. They're true. And they when you're coaching a team, you try to get your kids to learn for themselves, to act for themselves, because they're on the field. There's not a coach out there standing next to them. They got to be able to make decisions on the spot. And so in life, these are true principles. And I've always tried to find true principles and guide my life by those principles, and then help you guys to do that as well. Sean and my wife as well, we both are firm believers in this. And I think when you start to get away from that as a society, the society weakens, the family weakens, businesses weaken, football teams weaken, they become less successful because of that, because we get away from those principles.
Well, so the principle you're talking about, we talk about it as there's a word agency. Right?
Right.
You have your agency to be an agent unto yourself to make things happen. And there's so many words that go along with that. Responsibility, right?
Free choice, freedom,
free
liberty.
choice. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the big trade, which you talk about, the great trade that happens in this world is trading freedom for security.
That was actually going to be the title of a book I was going to write about 20 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Trade. What were you going to call it?
The Great Trade, freedom for security.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense, because you told me the great trade is freedom for security.
Yeah.
That makes sense, because if there's if what you're talking about with this whole taking on responsibility, that is, I don't even want to say that's the biggest problem in our society, because we already know that. It's so redundant. We know people just do not take responsibility. They don't take things under control. And you know what we do? We sit around and say, I hope someone does something.
Yeah.
Right?
Because we're more worried about the outcome, because we're more worried about doing things the way we think they should be done. For instance, you go back to that quote I just quoted, it's better for the character and contentment of man to do things poorly. Now you stop there and you go, well, why would you want to do things poorly? I've said this to people and go, that doesn't make any sense. Why do you want to do things poorly? That's stupid. Shouldn't you have them done well? Well, they don't get it, because you're not. There's a talk given a while ago. The guy was watching somebody put together his yard. He wanted to do it himself, so he had his boys get up on the house and tell him how to do it. And then he developed this farm, and had his boys doing the farm. And these people came by and said, your farm's awesome. I'd like to buy your farm. And he said, no, you don't understand. I'm not raising whatever the farm was, cows or whatever, apples. He says, I'm raising boys. Because the process of who we're becoming is really what life's about. It's what your alpha influence. You're trying to influence people. Well, influence them for what? To do what? To become their best selves. And a free society allows us the ability to make those decisions, to fail, to learn from failure, to grow as a people, to then learn from people's failures who have gone before us and say, this is how we become a better society. For a person to choose for themselves, to fly over to Afghanistan, to spend their own money, to get people out of there, is what makes America the greatest country ever. If you take that away, we're just like everybody else.
That is literally... Every leader in the history of the world has taken up on their own shoulders to make it happen, right? They've taken the responsibility on themselves to make a difference, right? You can go through this, whether good or not. They took the responsibility on their own shoulders to make a difference. What's happening in Afghanistan, I cannot fathom what is happening in Afghanistan. But at the same time, you look at it, there's men like Tim Kennedy, right? Or these men who are spending their own money and their own time, they have families, to fly over to Afghanistan to rescue people. Yeah. And our own government won't even do that.
Right. You look at statistics and say, okay, the government, the liberals feel very strongly about taking care of the poor. Okay, well, let's back that off and look at where the money comes from. Who gives to charity? Statistically, the conservatives give way more to charity than liberals. So you take people who will do it by themselves because they understand these principles and they're going to take care of other people. Because again, another key to a free society is that we look after, not forced charity, but voluntarily look after others. Whereas the liberals feel like if we force them, it'll get done. Well, it's not getting done. And we're not becoming a more prosperous society. You create class warfare. Whereas the other way, now people who give to other people feel compassion toward them. People who receive that from those people feel compassion and love toward those people. The people who are being rescued in Afghanistan feel a great love for those who came over out of their own free will to rescue them, as opposed to a forced government because somebody called them on the carpet to do it. It's a completely different scenario when people act for themselves. It's like teaching you to ride a bike. Okay, if I sat there and just ran alongside you, and never let you ride that bike or fall, because I didn't want little Jeremiah to get his little knee bruised, right? So I'm going to ride alongside you. Well, I'd still be doing that today, right? You wouldn't be a better bike rider. I'd be in either really good shape or die of a heart attack.
Right.
Okay. The purpose of that is you get on a bike, you start riding it, you fall off that bike and fall. Well, you got hurt. Yeah, you did. Get your butt back on the bike, take off again. You're going to learn to ride it eventually. You're going to go through some pain, but you'll get there because I have confidence in the American dream. I have confidence in the indomitable spirit of man, and I have confidence in you that you can do it. Now, what does that confidence do to you? That gives you confidence, because when your dad feels like you can do it, well, that gives you the confidence to get your butt off that ground, get back on that bike and go, right? And the process works.
Well, I mean, that's literally almost like verbatim what you told me when I came home crying, just like, I just got like beat up at school, right, or whatever, kids were making fun of me. You did in that moment coddle me, say, hey, it's okay, and honestly, that would probably be a very normal reaction for a father to hug their son who just has been going through that over and over again, to hug their son and just say it's okay, I love you, God loves you, all these things. That's actually, I think that's a pretty normal response. But in reverse, you literally, I think about this moment a lot. I think what was going through your head to do that? Because I think about what would any other parent do? Any other parent that I know would probably be because we tried talking to teachers and all that, but would probably just, sit me down, say, don't listen to people. You literally told me, get out of the house, and you're not allowed to come home until it's done.
I'll tell you a lot why I did that with you at that moment. Because like you said, there was other stuff that got into it leading up to that. We had done what we could do, right? We had tried to, make nice with the little kid and, try to do all this stuff. But at that point, I saw within you this question: who's going to do it for me? And I looked at my son.
That was literally the question I asked. Why won't any of you help me?
And I looked at my son. I thought, he needs to learn something here. You're going to do it for you. And I didn't really care if you went up there and got in a fight and both of you got hit and okay, you are big deal. You're 12 years old. It's not going to kill yourself, right? You're not going to kill each other. I knew that you had to learn that you have to, in this world, you have to be a man of action. You have to take action. And if somebody's doing something to you, you have to stand up. And it doesn't matter if they beat you up. You have to stand up again. Get back up off that ground if you fall off the bike. Say, I'm not putting up with that crap. Okay, I'll go up there to your house, I'll drag your butt out, and we're going to fight as 12-year-olds right in front of your house. And you or I are going to get beat up. But someone's going to get beat up. If I get beat up, I may be back here tomorrow if you don't knock this crap off. And that kind of attitude is the kind of attitude that people are prepared for life now to go forward. Because life's not easy. You're going to fail. You're going to struggle. Things are going to go hard. And how are you going to meet that challenge? Are you prepared to meet that challenge? Now, if I took little Jeremiah, I said, Jeremiah, let's get you a little ice cream cone. Come over here and let's rub your little owie and make you feel good. Now, that's what most people, psychologists will say to do that.
Because they might even think it's traumatic for you to then add on to the
and believe me, I get a lot of crap for the way I raise my kids. For instance, another story you're probably familiar with is when you were about the same age, I was coaching your football team, and we went over to scout a team that was playing. We hadn't played them yet. And it was about 45 degrees outside, something like that. And I'm getting older, I don't like to get cold, so I put on a jacket. I start walking out. You come out, you got shorts and a t-shirt on. And I go, Jer, it's pretty cold outside. You might want to think about putting a jacket on. Walked out and you go, no, I'm good. I said, so walk outside, look how cold it is and tell me if you're still okay. You walk outside, you go, no, I'm good, Dad. I said, all right. let's go. I'm like, he ain't gonna freeze to death. It's 45 degrees outside, but he may learn that, when Dad says it's cold, it may be cold. Maybe I ought to think about wearing a jacket next time. You may be cold at the game. That's okay. It's good for you. So we head off to the game. We get off, and we aren't there 2 seconds. We're walking up literally to the field, and this lady in the ward, the area, is a real busybody. In fact, she's one of the mothers of one of the kids, was kind of a turd, which is interesting.
Right.
She walks up to me, beelines it right for me, and she says, "Oh, I see you've got your coat. Where's your son's coat?" And I'm going, because I was kind of a church leader in the area, and I'm kind of going, how do I play this politically correct and make sure she's not hurt and blah, blah. So I go, well, what kind of father would I be if I told him the story of how you got there, and, I told him it was cold, and I says, what kind of father would I be if I just did everything for him? I thought that would suffice. And she goes, a kind one. And that right there just I was like, you frickin' bitch.
We don't swear, though.
I didn't say that. I thought that. I said, yeah, the kind whose 30-year-old son sleeping on his couch in her basement because he doesn't have a life. She actually had a 30-year-old son sleep on her couch in the basement because he didn't have a life.
Oh, did she?
She was a little upset with me. But the point was driven home.
Yes. Well, what you're talking about, like with the whole, I don't know if I don't know if you know this. When you put me out of the house to go over to so and so's house, I was so scared. Like I was like physically shaking.
Yeah.
I was crying even harder now, but not out of like what just happened to me. I was crying out of fear. I literally threw up. When you first walk out of our cul-de-sac and you go down the street and there's the fences down there, up on Grandview Hill.
Yeah.
I literally grabbed onto the fence and went around the corner of the fence and I started throwing up. I was that scared. I was actually kind of mad at you.
Yeah.
For making me do that. I was like, you don't understand, all this stuff.
Right.
But the thing is, I knew you wouldn't let me back in the house until it had been done.
Right.
I knew that.
Right.
And so I literally had no choice.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is you literally gave me no choice. You gave me no choice but to either fend for myself out on the street, which I don't know if you actually would have made me fend for myself out on the street, but that's what I thought at the time.
Sure.
Or I have to go fight my demons. And at the time, that was a 12-year-old kid.
You really had a choice, Jer.
I did.
It wasn't it was a pretty easy choice because the other one was really bad. But the fact that you chose to go do that, right? You chose to fight through your fears, real fears for a 12-year-old boy, right? And you chose to go do it. And then afterwards you came back and there was a glow in your eye.
Yeah. Well, I was...
I don't even think the glow in your eye was much the fact that you beat the kid up. It was the fact that you actually went and handled it yourself.
I did it. That was the thing that went through my head was literally just the words, I did it.
Yeah.
And I walked away just like with this amount of... I felt good about who I was.
Yeah.
I felt good. I'm like, I did it. It was. I mean, as a 12-year-old kid, you don't really get a whole lot of accomplishments. To me, that was the biggest accomplishment that I can ever think of. Especially at that time, I felt in a set of accomplishment, like I did something big.
Well, in football, when you were playing high school football, you were very good at the end of a game. So when the pressure was on, plays need to be made, drives need to be taken care of so you win the game, you were very good in clutch situations. And I really think that attitude helped you because you didn't fear failure. And that's one of the biggest things you have to learn as a kid. And if you learn it early in life, it's a lot better than if you try to learn it later. Because if you don't fear failure, you know that you'll be okay. Then that allows you to focus on what needs to be done rather than what happens if I don't do it. What happens if I fail, right? Because those split-second decisions, you can't hesitate. And in life, you can't be afraid of failure because then you'll never take risk. And life in America and the Constitution, capitalism, beautiful capitalism, is about taking risk in yourself, believing in yourself, betting in yourself. And you know what? You may fail. It's better than going to school. I suppose spend $100,000 going to school and I just lost $10,000 on this investment, but I learned more on that $10,000 loss than I did a $100,000 loss at school, especially the way school is.
Oh my gosh, we could talk about that for hours.
So anyway, that's a true principle, I believe.
Well, I mean, I think it's actually obviously this wasn't planned that you were going to be the guest on the podcast today just right after this award came. But I try not to get emotional when I talk about this, but like when I see that award, it means a lot, right?
Yeah.
Because like better than anybody, because man, it's just hard. It's hard, and there have been so many things in my life that I've made a decision on that were scary.
Yeah.
If I could just define as one thing, they're scary. And after when I was trying to build this business, right? After I lost that big connection with that one guy, we're not even gonna say his name.
He who shall not be named.
Yeah, right. After I lost that, I had no set income coming in. That was the only set of income I had. Oh. And I was still an entrepreneur. There was no guarantee of income, but at least I had a connection that I was working with to generate leads for me to close and my team to close and for the business to build. And the second that happened, I was betrayed by some of my best friends at the time.
Sure.
And this guy I considered a mentor, a friend. And when it all blew up in that one day when he basically, cut ties with me out of nowhere, you were the first person I called.
Yeah.
Right? And that was not just a little over a year ago today.
Yeah.
Right? And I just remember sitting in the car with you just saying like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, all you told me is, well, it's a good thing you live in America. you just all you say is a good thing you live in America, a place you're free, where if I had to start again, I'd rather do it here.
Sounds like a song.
Yeah. But
Lee Greenwood right now is going to sue me for rights.
No. But it was that I really like, I'm sitting there with you talking in that moment. I'm like, what I had to go do then, I had to go knock doors, just get enough money to get the business going, to sweat, and I didn't know what was going to happen.
But see, those feelings, Jeremy, are just as real for when you talk to people about putting money in an Alpha Influence store. When you talk to people about working their 9 to 5 and trying to get away from that, because that's that safety net. And again, we talk about the great trade, freedom for security. What would you be willing to give up for having your free time to yourself? Is it worth a $50,000 job? If somebody says, I'll pay you $100,000 and you're stuck to this desk, or you can pay $50,000 on your own and you have a chance to make more, is that worth it to you? Well, for me, my whole life I've been on a commission pay. And it's been worth it to me to be able to say, I'm not going to work today. I'm going to go coach my kid. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And it's been harder. It's a lot harder. You stress, you worry, you depend upon God, you get on your knees and you pray, then you go make it happen. And I would rather live that way than live at the beckoning of other people, because we think that's security, but they could easily go out of business or turn you away or cut ties in the relationship.
Oh, yeah.
And that way I'm making my own decisions. I'm alive. I'm not some guy sitting at a desk waiting for the 5 o'clock bell to hit so I can go home.
Oh, geez.
I'm living.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think what people understand is you were actually really sought after as a coach. You got offers to coach in a lot of places, even like what was it, Boston College?
Yeah, I was going to go coach at Boston College with Gary Croton. I was going to. Snow College offered me the head coaching job, and I wasn't even seeking for coaching positions. And I thought about it for a second, but it came back to, where would that lead? I'd be working 80 hours a week. I would be away from my family. I would be tied to a university who I already knew. Frankly, it comes down to, I can't work for a university. I'm unemployable in those situations, just because I'm not going to get along with the university president. The political correctness goes on.
And that was back then.
Could
you imagine today?
No. And so I knew that, and I knew I would much rather be on my own, doing my own thing. And so I definitely chose not to do that, and that's the reason why. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about that I didn't like coaching, because I did. It was about that.
Yeah. Well, that's why I believe so strongly in starting Alpha Influence and building a business that provides a flat platform for people to have the opportunity to build their own business, to be their own boss, to have that kind of freedom in their life. Because especially today, this is a feeling that I've been feeling for a while, is that having a job is not, I don't want to call it job, because if you're a man and you go work your ass off to provide for your family, I have all the respect in the world for you. Right? There are some hardworking men who do everything they can to provide for their family, and if that means get a job, that means get a job. However, the feeling that I've gotten, and I know a lot of people, especially now, are getting, is that is going to be more and more of a difficult thing, especially with the kind of things that are happening with our government. Joe Biden just coming out saying, if you have over 100 employees, and by the way, why 100? What's next? If you have 50 employees, if you have 10, when do they start moving it down?
Are you suggesting that Joe Biden might change his mind and do something different?
He doesn't have a mind. It's mush.
Or whoever's telling Joe Biden
to say this shit. Joe Biden comes out and says, I have to mandate vaccinations. And whether you're for the vaccination or not is up to you. But the principle of that government is forcing, based on your job, that you have to get this or you will be fired, is a form of control. Same with healthcare. If you get government healthcare and you don't follow their rules, then they now have something to take away from you. Right. They control you in a way. They control your income. They control how they pay for your healthcare, whatever it is. That form of control makes you, in a way, really, you're not free. You're not free to live life by your terms. You are actually someone who can be canceled or can be controlled. And that's why building a bit like what you did your entire life is, you were a financial advisor. You worked purely commission. No one could fire you. You could fire. It was you performing or nothing.
That's a very important point, and I got a couple things to say about that. In Salt Lake, the mayor mandated masks for kids going to K through 12 school.
Yeah.
And I read an article that said that it's 99.8% compliant is what they're saying. And they're not policing it yet, but that they're getting pretty good people. And what they're trying to insinuate is that people are choosing to follow that. But then down further in the article, it says that there is a warning that if you get caught without a mask, it's up to 6 months in jail and $1,000 fine. And I thought,
what?
I thought, wait a minute. You're trying to tell me you're not policing it, but that they're choosing. Can you imagine a kid in the morning going, if I don't put this mask on, I could go to 6 months in jail and get fined $1,000. That's the definition of policing.
Tyranny.
It's exactly that. And so when the government takes control, they never give it back.
Ever.
They will never give us back our freedom. We will have to take it back. And there is a point in time coming in the future that there is going to be some sort of point of demarcation where we are going to, as a country, have a civil unrest regarding the government takeover of what's going on. Is that going to be at the polls? I hope so. I think America's learning some things from what's going on. I hope. Will it be other ways? I don't know. But I know that there's a lot of conflict right now in the government taking control, the desire to take control and to change the face of America. Barack Obama said when he took office, we want to fundamentally change the United States of America. This is what he's doing.
Right.
This is what is happening.
And you know what's crazy is 10, 20 years ago when you talked about the New World Order, everyone would call you, someone who's a conspiracy theorist. Yes. Oh, where's your tin hat?
Right wing,
Illuminati stuff. Yeah. And honestly, I thought like, oh, come on, conspiracy. But now I actually hear it openly be talked about, this New World Order. Yeah. And I don't even want to talk about the New World Order. I'm just talking about, just in general, our ability, our freedom as Americans to live our life on our own terms. You are going to be controlled. And everyone who's listening to this right now, understand this. You see this right now. They are not going to stop with just 100, businesses who have 100 employees or more. They will continue to push it. And you hear it in Joe Biden's voice when he says, we're getting impatient with you. Impatient? Fuck you, man. You don't get to be impatient with us. You don't tell us what to do. You're actually our public servant. We vote you in office and we will actually fire your ass and vote you out. You work for us, not the other way around.
And we come back full circle to what we were talking about in the beginning. Why is that important? What if the government, COVID and wearing your mask might make a better percent chance of you, not getting the virus? What if healthcare could be provided a little bit better by the country than you individually? Well, what if they could do all these things so much better than you could? Wouldn't it be better to hand over your freedom to them? No. Because it comes back to, who are we becoming as a society? What type of people will that make generations from now? It'll be slothful, weak, immoral, discontented, and that type of people come out of that type of government control. It's only through us choosing for ourselves. Okay, Tocqueville, when America was founded, went through America and said that the key to America is that America is good, right? We're good because we learn to choose for ourselves. George Washington in Valley Forge brought a guy over from, Prussia to help train his troops. And this man was one of those, authoritarian trainers. And he's just screaming at these guys. Every F word, every word he can think of in the book. And the American soldiers are just looking at him, kind of laughing. And he's like, what the hell is wrong with these people? Don't they get it? They're fighting for... And then he came back and he started kind of, getting them to learn and then learn from themselves and teaching them a different way. He learned, he said in his book, I learned that Americans had learned to think for themselves. And then when you got them directed in the right way to think for themselves and they bought into it, they were more fierce than somebody who was ruled over by somebody who just screamed at them to do the instructions right. And that helped train. It actually helped one of the reasons why we won the Revolutionary War is that training and that relationship with the Prussia general.
Well, I mean, that's the reason why American of itself, capitalism, why we're the greatest country on earth, why we've grown as big as we've grown, and is because the human decision, the self-discipline to say, this is what I want and I will go for it because I bought into a dream or a vision, is always going to be more powerful than someone else telling you what your dream should be or what your vision should be, or just essentially what you should do. Yeah. Someone who governs themselves and also just makes that self-decision of this is what I want will fight to the death for that, as opposed to someone else fighting because someone else told them to.
Right. I'd rather make a false decision, a bad decision, a wrong decision than have somebody tell me how to do it properly. It's basically that same quote told in a different way.
Right.
And that's the spirit of America. When George Washington told Samuel Adams, what should we do? He said, resist. That's what, who's that Congressman? Rand Paul.
Rand Paul.
Resist.
It's time to resist.
It's time to resist, fellows. Time to resist.
I don't think there's a time coming. I think it's time now for us to resist. And resisting in our words and speaking out against it is one thing. But we will resist to death to protect our freedom, to protect what we have. Because I don't even have kids yet, but I think of my kids. And if my kids grow up in a completely different country than what I've grown up in, then I'm failing them if I don't stand up to make it happen. Yeah. If I don't try to not only stand up, but to find others and inspire others to stand up and make it happen, and just make a difference and actually stand for what we believe in, right?
Last year, your mom and I went to a Pleasant Grove High School football game. This is when the mask thing came out, right? And your grandpa was there. Jeremy's grandpa is an old football coach from BYU, and he's full of piss and vinegar. And so it's us three sitting there. And we went and we had a mask, and we had it kind of underneath our nose, and we sat away from everybody. And this is when they were announcing at halftime, hey, or the whole 10 minutes of the game, every 10 minutes, wear your mask, put your mask up over your nose. We thank you for this so we can have this football game. Well, this lady who's a vice principal is walking down the stadium just looking at every monitor, and she saw us with our masks underneath our nose. She came up, she says, you need to put your mask up over your nose. I says, get out of here, lady. I says, I'm social distancing. We're here by ourselves. Just get out of here. Take your Nazi ideas and get out of here. And she was like shocked by that. Not that I had experience with that kind of thing, but she turns, walks around, goes and gets the other one. They come up and they start harassing us, talking about getting the police and everything, and it really almost came to that where police or it was going to come to blows because it got pretty heated. But we were resisting, and I see video of moms and dads going to city council meetings and district council meetings for their school and resisting. And I see people taking their kids out of school and saying, well, I'm not going to send my kid to your school, and resisting. I see people moving out of liberal states because they're resisting. And what we need is the governors of conservative states, Governor Cox, please stand up and be a man to resist, to say, Joe Biden, you can write all the damn rules you want, boy. But you come to Utah and try to pass that, you got a lot of people who are armed and ready to go. If you want to go, let's go.
Yeah.
Because we will not do what you're asking us to do. When Disney comes out with some stupid little, liberal crap, well, we ain't going to go see your frickin' movie. We're not going to go to your damn Disneyland. We're not going to travel to that state. We are resisting as a country. And when we resist, when we pull back, that's the greatest. That's better than going to the polls, because if they're not going to put out those movies, they're not making any money. They're not going to sell the stuff they do in Target if Target's closing down because they're not making any money.
Right.
And look what's happening in California. They passed a law that says you can go in and take money, products out of their stores. Right. Well, the stores are closing down and leaving.
Right.
Because they can't make it. That's what happens when liberals take over. And when we resist and won't give in to what they're doing and go to Chick-fil-A instead of going some other place, or making choices as Americans. And that's where the power of America is, for us to choose for ourselves and choose wisely.
Well, someone I know very close actually said this, and it's profound. You vote with your money.
That's right.
I don't care what anyone says. You vote with your money a lot more than you vote at the polls. As a matter of fact, your votes with money have more impact on the direction we go than your vote at the polls, because it's a money game.
Yep.
Right? There's actually more power, I believe, in these big corporations, in big tech, whatever it is, than there actually is in, Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., they're just a bunch of puppets. The people behind them, controlling them, telling them what to do, is my problem, right? They're the issue. And if you vote with your money, say, if you don't like what Facebook's doing, then there needs to be something else rise up that we all then go to, which, we're fighting that battle now because we see Parler come up and then it gets shut down, and we see all these things, this battle that we're having.
Dan Bongino came up with an alternative to YouTube, right? I think there's a Rumble or something like that.
I'm not sure.
It's an alternative to YouTube. People talk about Twitter. Twitter won't let President Trump. Why are you on Twitter then?
Yeah.
Get off Twitter.
Delete your Twitter account.
Yeah.
Don't go on Twitter.
And they're saying, wow, that's going to cost me a little problem. Tough. We're at a point where we have to resist. And as a country, if conservatives come together, I've talked to conservatives throughout the country. They all feel the same way. We have to come together. We have to resist. And because if we're becoming the type of people we want to become, this is the point where we save America, or we go on into socialism and communism. And it's not going to be like Europe, because if America goes into communism and socialism, there's nobody there to protect the rest of the world, and it's worse.
Now, one last thing before. So you're talking about all this stuff of lessons you've learned, right? Taking responsibility. But the one message you teach better than anyone else that I believe, obviously, is the power of being a father. Right? You talk about why it's so important to be a father, why you've literally made every decision in regards to your business, your money, everything you have done has revolved around the decision of you being the best father you could be. Which I know me and all your kids, my siblings, all feel the same way, how grateful we are for you and the time you spent with us and the decision you made to have that kind of freedom to be around us, to teach us these things it's obviously why we're here where we are today, but we couldn't be more grateful for that. But at the end of the day, I just want to know, you didn't have a dad to teach you these things.
Right.
So where do you feel like that came from?
Well, that's a good question. I will say this, that an unsung hero in that is gonna get a little emotional. is my wife, Shauna, because she is the one who supported that idiot making the decision to not go get that job and to have less security, have less money coming in, and have a chance to make it on his own. And it's sometimes she doesn't get the credit for that, but she was right there with me, still is.
Yes.
And the other thing I've tried to do is I've tried to look at people who I thought were doing a good job, and I would pull them aside and ask them questions. And I would watch people, and I would read things. But again, I think that the principles of being a father are a lot of the same thing as the principles of being a good coach. It's a lot of the same principles of being in the free society. It's a lot of the same principles that are involved in worshiping my God the way I should, taking personal responsibility, being accountable, asking for forgiveness, because I'm going to make mistakes, you're going to make mistakes, being repentant and humble, right? And then trying to work back better. That's the process of repentance. What a great process that is. Saying, you know what, I got to do better. It's on me. All right. I'm grateful that Christ paid for my atonement. I give it all to him, but I got to do better. And what a compliment that is from a God to say to us, I'm going to forgive you. Now go do better. Right. He said to the woman taken in adultery, he said, where are thine accusers? She says, no one, Lord. And then he said, go and sin no more. That's a powerful part of that whole story. Go and sin no more. He didn't say, well, you're kind of a slacker and good luck. I mean, go and do your very best. That's the saying everybody likes to say. Go and, just sin a little bit. Try to just notch it down a little bit. Get a little better every day, right? He says, go and sin no more. It's in you. The power is in you. You can do it. And that principle is another principle that is embedded in the history of the founding of the nation. That's embedded in scriptures. It's embedded in everything that's good. Everything that succeeds comes from good principles. Everything that doesn't succeed comes from bad principles. You take some system and you say, let's look, would that be good for society? Let's isolate it and put it on an island and see if it does well. Would that prosper or not? If it's not going to prosper, it's not good for society and you can't learn anything from it. And so I would pull people aside and say, you're a good parent, tell me what you're doing. You're a good parent, tell me what you're doing. And I would watch people and I would just try to incorporate that stuff. Did I make mistakes along the way? Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes. I still make mistakes. I just try to say, I was dumb. I got to do better. How can I learn? And that's been one of the things that I've tried to do.
Well, any of you watching this, you probably hear a lot of what, my dad's saying here, and you would think it sounds very similar to what I say when I give trainings, because it literally is. Everything I know, I attribute to what my father has taught me. Growing up and the time he spent with me and the amount of energy he's put into making sure I had a father to teach me, to help me grow. And, you saying that about mom, honestly, now in my situation, having to go through this entrepreneur life, I think that actually just hit me, because I don't think I've realized. Because I see, I have my Kinsey, right? Kinsey's my wife, and I see how hard these decisions are on her and how much trust she's had to have in me and how grateful I am to her to trust me to make those decisions. And I think of, you teaching me that to take it on yourself and make it happen. But for, my wife, your wife, my mom, right? If our wives of entrepreneurs who honestly, in a lot of ways, rely on the man to go out and provide. There is, like, we talk about our anxiety to make it happen, there's just as much anxiety on them to make it happen. And you saying that, I couldn't agree. I didn't even think about, I almost hate to say it, but I hadn't even thought about how impactful that has had to have been on mom, of, because I know the offers you've had for jobs. I know how sought after you've been, but you've made the decisions actively to be your own boss. And to mom, I'm sure that was scary as hell, because it was probably scary for you and it was just as scary for her, but the amount of trust she's had to have in you to do that. Just shows you how strong mom is. It's funny.
I mean, you think about it. You're a woman. You're home. You don't work. You've kind of brought 5 kids in the world. You're kind of committed, and so you're home with these kids, and you're trying to, I hope your husband's going to go out and make money that we can pay our bills, and be honest with you, I would go to work dressed like mom would call me a homeless PE teacher.
Right. Yeah. A little bit.
I mean, I got PE shorts on and a t-shirt, and she's got to be thinking, what's this knucklehead going to go do? Right. How is he going to bring home money for us dressed like that? But she just she had faith in me, and she would make fun of me, calling me the homeless PE teacher, and I may come out with a sports line, like that one
homeless
day.
PE teacher.
You would homeless PE teacher look.
You and Adam Sandler, man. I don't know if you see that dude. He dresses in New Balance shoes and high
damn straight,
white
baby.
socks.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, Dad. I really appreciate you, and I love you to death. So,
love you too, son.
Thank you.
You bet.